Hello everyone. Today I am going to explain what do you mean by Laplace transform, what are the uses of Laplace transform, how to find Laplace transform of some standard functions, and sufficient condition theorem. So what are the uses of Laplace transform? This is used to solve the problems which arise in engineering as well as in mathematics. The ordinary differential equations, partial differential equations describe certain quantities which vary with time. For example, current in an electrical circuit, oscillations of a vibrating string, the heat flow through an isolated conductor. So this type of problem we can solve with the help of Laplace transform. Basically, it is an operator which is used to solve some initial value problems and boundary value problems. Now, how to define a Laplace transform? What do you mean by Laplace transform? Let f be a function going from 0 infinity to r. So its domain is the all values of t which are greater than equals to 0, right? Let this be a function, the Laplace transform of f. It is defined by the integral. This is e to the power minus st into ft dt, the integration from 0 to infinity. So Laplace transform of f, right? We find out this integral. If this integral exists, then we say the Laplace transform of the function f exists and it is denoted by fs. Since it is a function of s, so after solving this, t will be removed because we substitute the values of t in the forms of the limit and we will get it will be a function of s. So if this integral exists, then that value of the integral will become the Laplace transform of f. So now these are some Laplace transforms of some standard functions. For example, if we take ft to be 1, then what will be the Laplace of ft? You find out the integral 0 to infinity ft into e to the power minus st dt. Substitute the value of ft, this is 1. Solve this integral. What will be the value of this integral? This is e to the power minus st by minus s. Now substitute the limits. So when you substitute infinity, you will get 0 only when s is greater than equal to 0. Otherwise, this will be infinity. So in that case, Laplace not exist, right? So we have to take this condition that s should be strictly greater than 0, because when we substitute the limit infinity, if s is strictly greater than 0, only then this value is 0. And when you put 0, this value is 1. So the Laplace transform of 1 is 1 over s. But provided your s is strictly greater than 0. Similarly, we can find out the Laplace transform of t. Let's suppose our function is t. So substitute the value of ft to be t over here and find out the value of the integral, right? So what will be the value of Laplace integral of this? This is our first function, this is second function. So first function as it is, find out the integral of the second, substitute the limit minus the integral of the second into differentiation of first, and then again integrate this. So after applying this and after solving, we get whenever our s is strictly greater than 0, the value of this integral is 1 over s square. So after solving this, we get 1 over s square. Now just see, since our s is strictly greater than 0, so after putting infinity, this value is 0, and after putting 0, you get this is 0. So this limit is 0, this value is 0. This is when you substitute infinity, since s is strictly greater than 0, this value is 0, and when you put 0, this value is 1. So you get 1 over s square. So Laplace transform of t is 1 over s square. Laplace transform of 1 is 1 over s. Similarly, find out of Laplace transform of t square, and after solving this integration, we get this is 2 upon s cube, provided s is strictly greater than 0. So in general, the Laplace transform of t to the power n will be n factorial upon s to the power n plus 1 provided s is strictly greater than 0. This is just by the generalization of this. When you put n to be 1, what you get, this is 1 factorial upon s to the power 2. So that is 1 over s square. So Laplace transform of t is 1 over s square. When you put n to be 2, you get this is 2 factorial upon s to the power 2 plus 1, which is 3, and s is greater than 0. So this is 2 upon s cube. Right? So Laplace transform of t cube, it will be 3 factorial upon s to the power 4 when s is greater than 0. So now what is the Laplace transform of e to the power at? Now we have to put the value of ft to be e to the power at into e to the power minus st dt. We can combine these two. After taking minus sign, it will be s minus a times t. So when you integrate this, you get this is this one. After substituting the limits, what we get, this value will be 0 only when s minus a is strictly greater than 0. Means s is greater than a. So this is a condition. Under this condition, this value will be finite. So therefore, the Laplace transform e to the power at will be 1 over s minus a provided s is strictly greater than a. So once again, see, Laplace of 1 is 1 over s. Laplace of t to the power n will be n factorial upon s to the power n plus 1. And Laplace of e to the power at will be 1 over s minus a. So again here, if you put a to be 0, what you get, this is 1. A to be 0, you get 1 over s, which is same as that this. The next, we will find out the Laplace transform of cos at and sin at. To find out the Laplace transform of this, we will use this property. This is called linearity property. This property says the Laplace transform of alpha times some function plus beta times some function is, you can take alpha to be outside times Laplace of ft plus beta times Laplace of gt, where alpha and beta, these are constant. So you can take constant to be outside, and you can easily verify this by taking the left hand side, apply the definition of Laplace transform, and in the integral you can take constant to be outside and you will get this thing. You will get the right hand side. So Laplace transform satisfy the linearity property. That means this one. So we will use this property in case to find out the Laplace transform of cos at and sin at, right? To find out the Laplace transform of cos at and sin at, we first consider the Laplace transform of e to the power iota at, right? Now by the previous step, 5 property, we know that Laplace transform of e to the power at is nothing 1 over s minus a. So here your a is iota a. So you can write 1 over s minus iota a. Now you just rationalize this. You get this is s plus iota a upon s plus iota a. So you get this is s plus iota a upon s square plus a square. Now you separate the real and the imaginary part. You will get this is s upon s square plus a square plus iota a upon s square plus a square. Now what is the value of Laplace of e to the power iota at? As we know that e to the power iota theta is cos theta plus iota sin theta, and using this linearity property you can write this as Laplace of cos at plus iota Laplace of sin at, right? So now compare both sides. What you get, the Laplace of cos at is the real part, which is s upon s square plus a square, and Laplace of sin at is the imaginary part, that is a upon s square plus a square. Okay, so what will be the value of Laplace of cos at? It is s upon s square plus a square, and sin at it will be a upon s square plus a square. Next we will find out the Laplace transform of cos hyperbolic at. as we know that cos hyperbolic theta can be written as e to the power theta plus e to the power minus theta by 2. So using this concept and using the linearity property, we get this is half outside Laplace of et plus Laplace of e to the power minus at. And since we know that Laplace of e to the power at is 1 over s minus a, again find out here also this is 1 over s plus a. Now you take its LCM, right? So what you get, this is s square minus a square, and in the numerator you'll get 2s and 2 will be cancelled out. So you get this is s upon s square minus a square. So Laplace of cos hyperbolic at is s upon s square minus a square. Similarly, we can find out the Laplace transform of sine hyperbolic at, as we know that sine hyperbolic theta can be written as e to the power theta minus e to the power minus theta by 2. So again, by solving same way, you will get the value of Laplace transform of sine hyperbolic at is a upon s square minus a square. So these are the Laplace transform of some standard functions. The next is the piecewise continuous. Now what do you mean by a piecewise continuous function? A function is called piecewise continuous on an interval if the interval can be broken into finite number of subintervals on which the function is continuous on each open subinterval, means not at endpoints, and has a finite limit at the endpoints. Now what do you mean by this? Let's suppose you are given a function which is defined on an interval. You divide that interval into subintervals, and over each subinterval your function is continuous except at endpoints. But at the endpoints the limit of the function should be finite. Then you will say the function is piecewise continuous function. In other words, a piecewise continuous function is a function which has a finite number of breaks in it and doesn't blow up to infinite anywhere. For example, every continuous function is piecewise continuous, right? So if your function is continuous, clearly it is piecewise continuous. Okay, for example, cos t, sin t, e to the power t, all these functions are continuous, so they are piecewise continuous also, but the converse is not true. Next example is, let's suppose your function is defined like whenever t is greater than equal to 0 its value is 1, less than 0 its value is minus 1. So at t is equal to 0 the function is not continuous, right? But the limit is finite, so therefore this function is piecewise continuous. However, if you consider 1 over t square, and let's suppose this t belongs to minus 1 to 1 except 0, then this function is not piecewise continuous, because near 0 the limit of this function is infinity, it is not finite. So this function is not piecewise continuous. So in this way we can define piecewise continuity, that in some subpieces the function should be continuous, at endpoints there should be jump but finite jump. Okay, now the next is exponential order. A function f defined on the domain 0 to infinity, and the codomain is set of real numbers. This function is said to be of exponential order alpha if there exists constant capital M which is greater than 0 and alpha such that for some t naught greater than equals to 0 the mod of ft is less than equal to m into e to the power alpha t for all t greater than equals to t naught. So if any function satisfying this inequality, then that function is said to be of exponential order alpha. Basically, we can easily see from this inequality that the graph of this function should be less than should decreases the graph of exponential function. Then we will say this function behaves like a exponential function. So that means this function is of exponential order. So now what are the examples? Every bounded function on this interval is of exponential order 0. For example, sine t function, cosine t, we know that they are always less than equal to e to the power t. So they are of exponential order alpha, where alpha is 0. E to the power at, this function is of exponential order. We can take alpha to be a as it is, right? So we get this function is of exponential order. Similarly, t to the power n, this function is of exponential order alpha for any alpha strictly greater than 0, as we know that e to the power n is less than e to the power alpha t for every alpha greater than 0. But e to the power t square, it is not of exponential order because we cannot find such e to the power alpha t and m such that e to the power t square is less than equal to this thing, right? So this function is not of exponential order. We can also check whether the function is exponential order alpha or not by using the limits. So if we find out the limit of mod of ft divided by to the power alpha t whenever t is very large, if this limit is some finite number, then the function is of exponential order, otherwise not. For example, if we want to check whether the function t square is of exponential order or not, we can find the limit t square upon e to the power alpha t tending to infinity. So this limit is finite, it is 0 for alpha is equal to 1, right? So therefore this function is of exponential order. Similarly, cos t upon e to the power alpha t, where alpha, let's suppose 1, this is also 0. So this is of exponential order. Even you can take alpha to be 0 also. In that case also this limit is some finite number. So therefore this is of exponential order. E to the power t square, but when you find out the limit of e to the power t square upon e to the power alpha t, it is infinity, it is not finite. So therefore this is not of exponential order. So this is a way to find out whether the function is of exponential order or not. The next is the sufficient condition theorem for the existence of Laplace transform. Now what do you mean by sufficient condition? Sufficient condition means if any function satisfies some conditions and under this condition the Laplace transform always exists. However, converse may not be true. Means there are such examples which does not satisfy the conditions of this theorem. However, Laplace transform exists. So these conditions are not necessary conditions, only the sufficient one. Means whenever the function satisfy these conditions, the Laplace always exists, right? But we are not sure about the converse part. So these are only the sufficient conditions, not the necessary one. So now just see what are these conditions. Let's suppose we are given a function which is defined on 0 to infinity up to r, and satisfying the two conditions, that function is piecewise continuous and secondly it is of exponential order with order alpha. Then the Laplace transform of f, it always exists for all s greater than alpha. Now just see the proof. Since what is given to us, that function is piecewise continuous, right? So if the function is piecewise continuous, means the value of this integral will exist, right? Why? Because this is continuous, and since it is piecewise continuous, we can break this integral into the sum of some finite integrals, right? And each integral exists. Okay, so here I have taken the interval 0 to infinity itself, and the second condition is it is of exponential order alpha. means for some positive constant m and alpha, there exists some t naught for all t greater than equals to t naught. Mod of ft is less than equal to m into e to the power alpha t. Right? Now we apply the definition of Laplace of ft. Consider Laplace of ft mod. So it will be mod of integral 0 to t e to the power minus st ft dt. Now we can take mod to be inside, so we get less than inequality. So this is integral of 0 to infinity to the power minus st into mod of ft. But mod of ft will be replaced with this number. Okay. Now you combine these two, simplify this integral, and we get the value of this integral will be finite whenever s is greater than alpha, and this value is m over s minus alpha. So this implies Laplace of ft exists whenever s is greater than alpha. So this is true for all s greater than alpha, that the Laplace transform of ft exists. So these are the sufficient conditions that function piecewise continuous and of exponential order alpha, then Laplace transform always exists. However, the converse of above theorem need not be true. For example, if we consider a function 1 over square root of t for t strictly greater than 0, this function is not of piecewise continuous, but this function is of exponential order alpha. However, the Laplace transform of this function exists. Similarly, the Laplace transform of 2t into e to the power t square cos t square, this function is continuous but not of exponential order alpha. However, its Laplace transform exists. So these two examples shows that the converse of above theorem need not be true. Means there exist such functions which doesn't satisfy the conditions of sufficient conditions of existence of Laplace transform. However, the Laplace transform